Cool. All right, I posted in Jeremy.
right, folks, how you guys doing? Welcome back to episode 20 of the TLT podcast. We got a good show today, and that is not Jesse that's sitting right there next to me. What has happened is Jesse had some real life situations going on, and so we are going to do the podcast. It was supposed to happen yesterday, but I had a real life situation go on, and I wasn't able to do the podcast because, well, power supplies being what they are, they crap out from time to time, and that's exactly what happened. So we're running the podcast a little late, a day later. We made the announcement yesterday that we rescheduled it to today, so hopefully people can join. If not, well then, hey, that's okay. We're just thankful for the people that do show up today. We've got our moderators that are filling in the background. So Ben's out there helping moderate, and we got Lou out there, helping moderate as well. So we've come together as a team to try to make this stuff happen. So we are moving forward and staying strong. We're keeping to the commitments. So either way, we got an action-packed episode for you guys. I kind of try to hype it up, but we got a nice episode for you guys today. Before we do that, though, guys, hit the thumbs up button. And if you guys are tuning in and haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. It only helps us out. So we need that kind of love today. Who else is it? Who's that dragon? Who that's in here?
The Dragon Toss? Is that how you pronounce that?
Yeah, Dragon Toss. Hey, Dragon, how you doing, brother?
Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I haven't seen that name before. That is awesome. Is our audio and video doing well out there? Can I get a couple of yays or a couple of nays?
Let's see. I can look as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're doing good.
We're doing good. Awesome.
I might be a little bit loud, though. I don't know.
No, we're good. We're good. So, what's been going on with you throughout the week there? We always start off with the, figuring some stuff out, what's happened in the course of the week that's been stressful, not stressful. What's going on?
Okay. This week has actually been pretty great. Some stuff at work's been happening that's definitely made it a heck of a lot more interesting, to say the least.
Yeah.
But in the terms of the Linux space, I did get my Intel Arc A770.
Ooh.
Although, as I told Alex this morning, I was a kind of a goofball and ordered the wrong power adapter, so I gotta wait for that to come in to use it again.
The power adapter, yeah.
Yeah, but that's all right. I also got a ton more RAM, which is really nice. I'm excited for that because, well, yeah, when you're on 8 gigs and then you jump to 64, it's like perfect.
yeah. You definitely gotta do that. I mean, you gotta, it's power supplies and RAM are probably two of the most important pieces of hardware outside of a graphics card, obviously. You know what I mean? You gotta be able to see stuff. But I mean, but those are two of the most important pieces of hardware that you gotta have very well met according to your needs of what you're computing to. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Especially in today's environment. I mean, I remember back when 4 gigs of RAM used to be a ton.
Yeah,
it used to be a ton. It used to be perfect. You could do whatever you wanted with. You were good. But now, I got 32 gigs of RAM in here, and I push it quite a bit sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Which is insane. And that's on Linux. In Windows, woohoo, you know what I mean? So I mean, we got some very RAM and power source intensive operating systems nowadays compared to what we used to. So for me in the Linux thingy, I have been playing around with different tools and stuff and learning some cool stuff. Learning the NV-Top thing that I did a video on and playing with that some more. Also, teleprompters and those kind of things I've been learning a little bit about, was able to drop some knowledge on you about that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Also, for me and frustration wise was power supply, I talked about it on DT's Patreon cast today too, but, power supplies, I had that die out yesterday, and that's why we couldn't do what we couldn't do, because life stuff happened. But, so I had those kind of little stress things going on. But other than that, we're good. Everything's going good. I'm grateful. It's Happy New Year's to everybody out there right now.
Absolutely.
If it's already the new year to you, hey, happy belated New Year's, I guess, Eve, or Happy New Year's, whichever one it counts. I don't know how that counts anymore. You know what I mean? Because everybody starts screaming Happy New Year on New Year's Eve instead of New Year's Day. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
But either way,
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit confusing on that stuff, because I know one of our mods is on the other side of the world from us, and it's already the 1st of January.
Yeah, they're a day ahead. Yeah. So either way, hope everything's going good. Hope people are staying safe wherever they are, man. Going to go ahead and talk about the first topic today, which the first topic in the podcast is going to be the grand old news of Rhino Linux. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, I had to get it right. Rhino Linux has had their updates. Now, if a lot of people don't know or haven't heard about Rhino Linux, it came out in the middle of 2023. Hey, what's up, Northern Wander? Glad to see you in the chat. Anyhow, it came out in the middle of 2023, and it is a rolling release fork of Ubuntu. And all the people that are maintaining it and have created this distro are all actually developers. And it uses Packstall, and it has a very heavily themed and customized XFCE desktop environment. So it is actually a very slick. I already did a review of it, and you can check it out on the channel. It has updated a lot of stuff in it, under the hood. A lot of APIs were updated for some of the package management and stuff like that. I mean, there's, the audio, I think, was also optimized with some API stuff in it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that was actually done under the hood. These people are really, I'm going to put it to you this way. I'm going to be bold. I mean, what do you think about this, Jonathan? I'm going to be bold and say that I see Rhino Linux becoming one of the fastest and most popular grown distributions in 2024.
I could definitely see that happening for sure. I mean, if you just look at the growth it's had since the project actually started out originally, it was actually a script at one point in time, if you didn't know that.
Yeah.
And then it got merged into an ISO. I mean, just look at the few years it's had that happen, and wow, I just can't even think about like how difficult it must be to change an entire desktop environment like XFCE over to something of the entirely different of their own thing, because it's called the Unicorn desktop environment, if I remember right now.
It's called the Unicorn. It's true. That's what they label it as, but it's actually an XFCE fork that they've worked on. I mean, they've done such amazing stuff with it. I like the color scheme of it. I mean, it's just a clean distro all the way around.
Oh yeah.
And they've done everything they can to enhance the package management system for it, and ideally you could use it as a daily driver, but as mentioned before, they're all developers. So they actually have kind of kept the developers in mind on this one. This is one of the best ones out there that I've seen that is curated more for development of different sorts on there. In fact, one of the developers is actually develops for Ubuntu Touch, which we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, because they make a fork.
They make a fork for it. So yeah. I mean, it's kind of if you haven't tried it out, man, you should definitely go and try it out. The link is in the description down below. Or will be if it isn't there. We'll catch it up there. But I mean, it's definitely one of those distributions that really kind of, it surprised me, because for the first version released, when I looked at it, which is what it was simply stunning. I was like, holy crap. I mean, somebody finally took Ubuntu, and I'm not knocking on Ubuntu because Ubuntu's got its place, but somebody finally took Ubuntu, flipped it on its head, and made Ubuntu look really cool.
I actually used it as a daily driver for a period of time, but that was just because I had been in the transition from just having a Ubuntu desktop at the time, going up to Arch, right? But I didn't want to do it the Arch way at the time, right? So it was definitely a different experience. The only thing I do have to caution for people is definitely watch those packages. Make sure you're not overwriting something you don't want to.
Yeah. I mean, but that's kind of sound advice on any distro you're on, really, when you think about it. You know, but we have Gel. I can't read his last name. Dravel, maybe. And Northern Wanderer. The name of the distro is Rhino Linux. Welcome to the chat, Gel. Glad to see you.
Glad to have you guys here.
Yeah. So it's called Rhino Linux. It's at rhinolinux.org, I think, or something like that. But it'll hang on, I could tell you in just a second.
Could one of the mods drop a link, please?
Yeah, https rhinolinux.org. Yeah, one of the mods drop a link, that'd be great. It is one worthy of checking out. It's actually pretty awesome, really. So I don't know. Wow, I forgot to transition to it. There you go. Now you guys can see it. No, I'm tired. I'm a little tired, guys. Sorry about that. So this is what their webpage looks like. So you can kind of see what it, see how it's running and all that good stuff. So, but anyhow, so we're going to head and we're going to transition and let Jesse, wow, John talk about his first topic, and that's going to be Enlightenment Desktop.
Okay, something interesting about Enlightenment is the fact that, well, it's very much window manager-esque in my personal opinion, even though from what I've seen in pictures and just brief looking at it, it's very, 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 very lightweight. So my big few things I wanted to talk about today had to do specifically with some of the new things that have happened in 0.26. And if you look here, I mean, there's something called the display data channel, which basically helps it with the backlight configuration for screen brightness. It's something that a lot of desktop environments have already had out by default. But hey, better late than never, right?
Exactly. Kind of like what was it? The thumbnail preview in the file manager for GNOME. It only took them like 20 years to get it there.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy with how long it takes some features to get rolled out sometimes.
Yep. And I did a review on that too as well, actually, in the new Enlightenment Desktop. So
that's right.
Yeah,
I remember seeing that. Something else that I think is a little bit controversial, to be honest, is they do have a watermark for whenever you're in window manager mode.
Yep.
I don't think I'd love personally to see having a watermark on my screen. I mean, I know there's a reason why I left Windows.
Yeah. And then also another thing too is they offer a tiling environment as well.
Right.
Which I didn't realize that they did that until this one. This one highlights it. So
yeah, I mean, I love tiling itself. It just definitely depends on their implementation. I personally have not seen how they implement it.
Yeah, neither have I. I just know that was an option.
Right, and I'm sure for those that want a tiling effect, it's there for them, which that's better than a lot of other desktop environments as it is. I know GNOME you can use an extension to do it with. I know KDE has a form of it with a script. Right. But with it being out of the box, that's great.
Yeah. And then and also it supports Wayland too.
Right. Which that's great. I would, again, that could honestly go down to a whole Wayland versus Xorg argument again. Let's not go down that rabbit hole today.
And the wonderful window and the wonderful window. If you're in Wayland mode, you'll know it because it actually includes the watermark.
Right, yeah. I just find it a little crazy that they thought it was a good idea to throw a watermark. Okay, cool, I guess. Some people will like it, some people will hate it. I just know I'm on the latter side of that.
Yeah, I'm on the laughter side of that too.
I also noted something else, and for those of you that are minimalists out there, they now support lognd. So if you want something nice but you don't want a full login manager, it's great. It's there. It's a thing. It's compatible. I don't know what took them so long to do something along those lines, but I'm just glad they did. It's really, really great.
They don't really historically have a very fast-paced release cycle.
They don't.
So yeah, I mean, I could see why it took them time to get all this stuff in. I don't know how many devs are working for. I mean, Enlightenment isn't one of those desktop environments that I use a lot. I mean, how about you? How many times have you actually used it over the years?
Oh, I've only ever used it 3 times.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've only used it like 2 or 3 times myself. So I don't really use it a lot. So I don't pay attention to the the release cycle for their updates or whatever. So. But I do know that this one landed with a lot of updates and it became newsworthy, so to speak. Because the updates they did were exponentially across the board. I mean, you were still not done. I know that. So,
right. My thing, I'm actually trying to find out how many developers they have right now.
Yeah,
I don't see an amount on their page, but yeah, I don't think they have a very large team, so we can't hold them like too. Can't be too hard on them.
No, I mean, and what they've done with it is absolutely fantastic. So, I mean, I'm not too worried about worrying about developers doing whatever it is that they do, but for them, but as long as they're moving forward and they're actually seeing pull requests, merge requests, and they're doing that kind of stuff and they're doing the commits, then we're good. But
just as long as they're making improvements, I get it. Absolutely.
And they made improvements to the sound API for it too. All kinds of they did a lot of under the hood stuff too, more than they did graphical stuff.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely important to have the behind the scenes type of stuff happening, because I mean, at the end of the day, if your audio doesn't work, let's say, nobody's going to use it.
Well, yeah, but historically though, I mean, the few times that I did use it, the audio wasn't an issue.
Well, I guess it might have just been my VM configuration. Maybe, I don't know.
Really, you had issues with audio?
I did in the past, not anytime recent. Yeah.
Well, okay. I didn't have any issues with it. In fact, I remember Enlightenment Desktop when I first found it and I first tried it. One of the things that really surprised me is that it's one of the few desktops. I know it's quirky and I know it's me just dating myself here, but it actually has a startup sound. Kind of like when you used to log into Windows, you get that old Windows startup sound.
Yeah, I definitely love the fact that they do that. That's actually one of the reasons why I like to use Cinnamon whenever I do, because I do the same thing. And real quick, Nate, very funny. Yeah. We all know there's no reason to pay for it, right?
What? What's he talking about? What?
He said, hey, I have watermarks because I ain't paying for the unlocked version of the wallpaper.
I'm not going to say, there's a definite way to get around that in Windows, but I'm not going to say it because I ain't trying to get demonetized.
Right, yeah. We don't want to get demonetized. Yeah. We don't want to get in trouble.
But Google will be your friend.
Absolutely.
On how to remove that.
You know what? That I think honestly hits the hardest for the Enlightenment desktop environment, and that's.
You mean the hardest knock on it is going to be the watermark?
The hardest knock on it is not the watermark. It's actually the fact that apparently you won't find it in most distribution repositories. You actually have to build it yourself.
Yeah, I know that it's in the AUR, or is it the AUR? Yeah, I think it's the AUR for Arch. I don't think you're going to find it in your beloved SUSE's repositories.
Want me to find out?
All right, Josh. But no, I mean, I don't know. It may not be there. It may be there. I don't know. Yeah, it could be hit and miss. But building it yourself isn't that hard. In fact, if you actually go to their GitLab, and they'll actually give you clear and concise instructions on how to build it yourself.
I'm going to go ahead and drop you guys a link for one of the GitHub repo for it as well. Let's see. For those of you wanting to take a look at this, I need to
drop that link.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot.
Yeah, absolutely. let's see.
My eye.
Yes.
Sorry, guys, I keep messing with my eye, but I got something in my eye about an hour and a half ago, and it's really bugging me.
There we go. I just dropped it for you if you want to
Alright.
take a look.
So you guys can check that out. It'll also be in the description down
Absolutely.
below. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to move on to my next topic, which is going to be, well, let's see here. It should be the fact that it's going to be Gentoo. I hope it comes up. I don't know why it didn't come up.
It's definitely Gentoo, Alex.
Yeah. Why is it not reloading?
If it's not gonna, hey, if it doesn't show up,
there
no
we
big
go.
deal. Let's just keep on going.
There we go. No, it showed up. I got it. Anyhow, Gentoo announced in Phoronix over there, as you guys can see on screen, it ends 2023 by offering up binary packages for direct installation. Now, one can only hope that Gentoo will start adding more and more binary packages to it, but it kind of goes against the Gentoo philosophy. I'm mixed because I'm excited because it makes the install go a little bit faster, because that's what they're directing most of these binaries to for some of the harder things for install to kind of maybe trim down that install process, especially if you're on potato type laptops and stuff you're trying to do that with. It could speed it up a little bit, but they already offered binary packages for like your web browsers and that kind of stuff, that would take like 2-3 days to compile.
Yeah.
So they've already offered that. So Portage is now including that to make it a little bit smoother and easier on the install. Some people are, yay, like should be like almost 100% of the world out there that messes with Gentoo, and other people are like, boo, but the reality of it is it is what it is. I mean, I think it's a smart move on them, because they're kind of making it a little bit less difficult to get into that world for them. And I think in a way that's kind of held back their distribution, but it's also made their distribution be extremely niche. You know what I mean?
I understand. My thing is, I'm kind of on the middle ground about this whole thing, right? I can definitely see different sides of it. Yes, definitely. Let's think of it this way. Having an easier way to get into an ecosystem definitely does bring people into it a lot faster, right? But at the same time, I know from personal experience, there's definitely times when people are asking questions when they can just look the answer up themselves. And I'm almost saying that I'm kind of concerned that this whole Gentoo thing is going to turn into what Arch used to be, and it's going to be like that.
You went right where my head was going to. And yes, it's nice because it's going to make people be able to get into Gentoo a little bit easier. But one of the things that it's going to do is it's going to make people that shouldn't be messing with Gentoo mess with Gentoo, and then when it breaks for whatever reason, because like anything else, it's a Linux-based operating system, there could be something that breaks, or you mess something up in it when you're setting up some flag uses for something else for optimization, and all of a sudden you're stuck with this broken package that is 19 times harder to figure out and fix than you can on Arch. And if you can't do it on Arch, you're certainly never going to do it on Gentoo.
I get 100% agree. Here's the thing that I have been told by a couple of different people. Believe it or not, if you compare the modern day Gentoo users versus the Arch in the past, they're quite a bit nicer people, and they're willing to help. As long as you're willing to do some of the work.
Gel says he'll still compile. And that's fine. I mean, like I said, this isn't. I'm only making it newsworthy. We all know my feelings on Gentoo. If you're new to this channel and not heard my feelings on Gentoo, well, you can go back and see quite a few different live streams. I made a trolling video about installing Gentoo.
Alex, just let them know how you feel, like flat and straight.
I will not waste another minute of my life on Gentoo, man. I wasted entirely too much on it, and Gentoo is just a succubus. All it does is it sucks the life essence out of you when you're installing it, because you spend forever and ever and ever compiling. And I don't have a slouch of a machine doing it, man. You're just in compiling heaven. You know what I'm saying? So screw that, man. I rather just load and go, Arch is good, or if you're going to do Gentoo, then do Red Core. Hell with it. It's already set up.
That's
Everything's great for you.
choice.
Just do Red Core. If you're so determined on using Gentoo and, don't feel like wasting all your time, Red Core is the one for you.
I almost compare Red Core kind of like how the Arca Linux live images were to Arch, right? Because everything's already done for the most part.
Legit, 100% legit. That is a solid comparison, because the reality of it is you just load it and you go. The most you got to learn how to do is how to. What's up, Zane? Zane's in the Zane's in the house. Just get to buy a better computer, bro.
The salt be real tonight.
Yeah. But anyhow, the reality of it is, man, Red Core, if you just want to experience Gentoo, and just have to learn the whole portage, packaging system, just load up freaking Red Core and you're good to go. It's the easy way out.
I almost see Gentoo as like that one big middle step, right? You have 4 steps. You have your newbie distributions, then you have your a little bit more involved like Arch, then you jump to Gentoo because you're wanting to get a little bit more involved, right? But then after that, you got to, jump all the way over to a BSD and realize you got to turn right around and go back to Gentoo.
No, you go to BSD, realize, say, fuck this, I made a mistake, I'm going to LFS.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's definitely part of that journey, and it's really, really important.
Yeah,
that somebody at least tries it.
Yeah, I mean, not trying to rank on BSD, but BSD is a whole different world. And the part that you need to wrap your mind around when you go to that, when you jump to that, is that there are BSDs for doing certain things. You got to know which BSD you want to use.
Yeah, because if I'm understanding what you're saying, right? Because BSD is not like Linux in the aspect of it's all just the same thing. Like they're their own individual concepts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So depending on what you want to do, you have to see which BSD you kind of want to be in. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, I mean, BSD's all right. I played with it for a little bit. I have no plans on going back to it to play with it. It's one of those sandboxes when you play in it, you realize, man, that sand feels a little more different than the other sand. I didn't really like that sandbox. You know what I mean? For me, at least.
I just wanted to point something out. Ben was saying out here in the chat. He said, I hate to say, but I'm happy this binary change is happening. I'm, to be honest, beyond sick of Gentoo being primarily source-based. It's not fun or cool, in my humble opinion. Here's the thing, Ben. It's not really changing from being source-based necessarily. It's just making it where the stuff that takes way too dang long to compile and is too difficult to compile is easier to get a hold of. There is also a downside to having the binaries, though, too, right? Because there's specific optimizations you can have on hardware if you do it yourself.
Yeah, when you do your
when
you do your flags and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and I can definitely see both sides of the argument here. It's one of those things. It's just you're gonna be on one side or the other. I just hope this doesn't end up being a Linux war type thing.
Well, that is the actual, but that's the thing about Gentoo that I actually agree with being. How do I want to put this? I think is the most valuable part of Gentoo, of that Gentoo installation, is the flags that you make for your optimization for your processor. Also, you can even if you really get deep into it, you can go and turn on and off, disable, enable different kernel, parts of the kernel. And modules, you can, add modules and take away modules out of the kernel that you don't like. I mean, you have that much finite control over it. That is the one thing that Gentoo offers over every other distribution out there that is just flat out amazing, And if you learn how to do that, and you keep your Gentoo streamlined and you do it, you're going to have a great experience with it, outside of losing a plethora of time to waiting for it to compile and that kind of stuff.
Here's I guess this is where I gotta ask then about it, like very seriously. I'm gonna ask a very serious question I brought up with other people before. Can't you really do that with any distribution if you do enough work?
Yes and no. I mean, you can. So the Gentoo handbook is kind of a core handbook for just about any distribution out there, because it outside of the package management system for it, you could actually use it to actually install and remove different, init systems. You could also use it to root and build different parts of the kernel modules and stuff like that. So yeah, you technically can do that. It's just applying the time to do it, and then
Right.
it's also a trial and error thing, which is literally what you're doing with Gentoo when you're building it, because half the time, once you've set these flags to make and all this stuff going on, you don't find out if you successfully did some shit until you're done. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you spend all this time waiting for all this compiling, and all of a sudden you're like, crap.
The anger is just part of the experience, because finally, when you finally get it, you're right, you realize you've wasted the last 2 weeks trying to do one thing.
DT's in the chat. What's up, DT? He said, I need to compile my kernel for a better 0 AD performance.
Hey, I want that kernel whenever you're done.
Yeah. Does it have the cheat codes in it too? Although DT,
please.
Although DT, just for the record, we moved on to Generation 0, bro. That's a solid game. Solid game.
I don't think I've heard of this game. Sounds pretty cool by the name.
Yeah, it's a pretty solid game. It's got good graphics. I played with it with Hipdad and Tyler last night, man. And it was pretty dope, man. It's pretty cool, man. So yeah, it's on Steam out there for like $5 now. Pretty cheap. I bought the bundle for 20.
Oh wow,
awesome.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I definitely need to take a look at it.
Up, down, left, east, down the awesome.
I need to make sure to keep this, for next time.
Yeah. There is DT dropping some wisdom on everybody.
That Sudo reboot. Oh, absolutely. That's the best part.
Yeah. All right, so we'll move on to the last topic, which is one that you are very passionate about.
Okay, so just a little bit of background. I'm in the Android development space, but I got kind of tired of the Android thing, and I've been looking at, things like Ubuntu Touch, Mobian, that type of stuff. And I saw recently that OTA-3 for Ubuntu Touch got released. I have a Pine phone in here in a drawer somewhere. I'll explain why in just a minute.
They're seeing it on screen right now, so.
Wait, what? Oh, the Pine phone's great. It's a great phone for what it is, but you also have to remember it's still very much a beta product. So last time I used Ubuntu Touch, I got everything to work but data. So, whenever you just can't get on the internet, it can be kind of frustrating.
Well, I'm showing a list. There's a list on here right now of all the different phones that it actually supports. So
yeah. I know it definitely supports the Nexus 5. I actually ran it on that for a while because it's great for what it is.
Ironically, that one's not even on here.
Oh, it was at one point.
Yeah.
Nexus 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's supported.
Well.
And then there is, let's see. Oh, something else to note. If you're going to go ahead and put Ubuntu Touch on the Pine phone, you have to be using an SD card. You cannot flash it to the eMMC. It's a long process. But the big thing I really want people to understand is you don't have to have a officially supported device for it to work if you're willing to take the time to port it yourself. And porting's not all that hard. It just takes some time to learn how to do. There's tons and tons and tons of resources online on YouTube on how to port Android ROMs. It's the same process. The only difference is you're using a different system image to do it, which is Linux based.
So
yeah.
So my question to you is: you said you could put it on. You suggest to put on an SD card. Is there a certain size?
Micro SD. Just
not the type, the size.
Oh,
like gigabytes.
Okay, I recommend anything 32 gigabytes or larger. So you actually have internal phone storage to use.
I was going to say, because you use it, is this going to be part of your internal phone storage?
Yeah, because this is your OS. This is your internal storage. This is everything you're going to use. The only reason why you have to put it on an SD card is because by default, at least it's a Pine phone or some devices, they don't allow you to boot directly from eMMC like that because of you have to use something called toe boot in order to boot into it.
Tyler says, Zany says, not gonna lie, Ubuntu Touch is actually pimping.
Yeah, he is so not wrong. Ubuntu Touch is great for what it is. I just wish Canonical would have kept it because now it's owned by a project. It's ran by a project called UBports.
Oh, really? So it's not part of Canonical no more?
No, it's its own little thing.
Oh, wow. So maybe that's why it's pimping now.
Yeah, that's why it's also why it's so. It's very slow in development. Like the latest version is based on Ubuntu 20.04. Keep that in mind.
Really?
Yeah, it's a little bit behind. So, Wine Phone runs Windows Phone 7
yeah,
OS.
I just saw that too.
You know, I think that should be a challenge accepted. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So you can get BSODs on there. That'd be cool. And that's just a screen lock. You know, your screen lock. You know, your when your screen times out, you know, it just does. You hit the power button and it comes on for your unlock screen. It's just a BSOD.
That would be great.
Yeah.
I can go ahead and drop you in the porting instructions real quick. That's that. Then I'll drop you in the GitLab where they have most of the work as well, right here.
But in order to do this, do they need? So if you do it on a Pine phone, you just put it on there and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Say you're on like a Google Pixel 3 or the Nexus, you actually have to root the phone, right?
Yeah. So yes, if you're on an Android device, you need an unlocked bootloader, which that's different from manufacturer to manufacturer. I recommend you just use one of them that's officially supported if you've never ported something over yourself. It just makes things a lot easier. I know in the past people have used Nexus devices just because of how easy they are to modify. I don't know. I think there's a Pixel 3a build if you have one of those.
According to that on the list, those were there. Yeah.
And then they also have a flashing utility on their website. You can use to flash it as well. If you go to the Ubuntu Touch website.
All right. So here's my other question. I mean, which would you? So do you prefer this Ubuntu Touch over, like, say, some of the other ones like Lineage or whatever that's out there for phones?
Okay, I prefer. I use either Ubuntu Touch or I will use Mobian on my phones if I want to use Linux. If I want to use Android, I will use something like Lineage OS or I will use something like Graphene OS, if you know what that is.
I heard of these. I've never played with these, so I'm like literally at a loss on these, as to what makes one better over the other one. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm asking this, and I don't know how many people in the chat actually played with them to know. I know that I think Tyler has a Pine phone.
He and I ought to hit each other up one of these days and see if we can get something great going.
Josh just jumped in the chat and he said he personally still prefers Mobian.
I'm in the same boat as Josh to some degree on this.
What is Mobian based off of for Linux?
Debian.
That's what I figured.
It's the mobile version of Debian.
The name kind of gave it away, yeah.
If here, it's a hot take in my personal opinion. If you're gonna use a mobile version of Linux on your phone, do not use the KDE Plasma Experience, the mobile version. Use Phosh, which is GNOME-like. It's just a lot more optimized from what I've used. I think I'm gonna probably carry my Pine phone again as a secondary phone. For a while.
TT says we need a TTY phone.
Oh my gosh, I agree. That would be great. I would love that, actually, not gonna lie. I don't know. I think you might have been joking, but I'm not.
Leave it up to you.
LS can give you,
huh?
Yeah. He said LS can give you the contacts. I love that.
Yeah. That'd be funny. But yeah, no, I mean, so yeah, like so Mobian would be the one for Linux that you would actually prefer over the Ubuntu Touch, even though Ubuntu Touch is pretty nice, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the thing about just straight up yes, because it's just more stable most of the time.
Right, and so the Android ones, which one would you prefer? Put over the other ones.
Oh, I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?
In the Android ones that you mentioned, which one would you prefer?
Okay, if I'm gonna use an Android one, there's a few different options. If you want something without Google, go with something like Lineage OS. If you want something with Google services, but you don't want it directly accessing all your data and you want it spoofed or whatever, you can use Graphene OS and install it in containers. And then if you just want a really, really, really all-around experience, there is one called Project Elixir, which is absolutely fantastic for what it is. It's actually done by a few different Android developers that just one day decided, hey, let's make our own version, which allows you to keep later versions of Android on your phone, so you don't got to buy a new one, which is nice.
Josh says something about he says for Android ASOP.
That's basically the underlying foundation for everybody to work on, right? So you have Samsung, you have all these other companies, right? They all start at that, and then they build their own thing from it.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
and they lock their bootloader so you can't get into it.
Depending on the manufacturer. Yeah,
Samsung,
Alex, I'm sorry.
I'm looking at you, Samsung.
I'm sorry you got the Snapdragon version of a Samsung device. That was a huge mistake.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I don't really play in that world. I used to years ago when it was simpler, a lot simpler, and it's one of those things where I swear to God, technology, if you take a left turn out of technology for like a minute, you're like 10 years behind. It's going so fast, especially in that world too. That was really fast paced when it came to modding and ROM, doing ROMs on your phones and stuff like that. I mean, like every month you were like, there would be 3 or 4 different updates and you'd be like lost on all kinds of stuff, at that time. So,
it's definitely died down a lot since those days, but I would say some of the cooler projects have come out since then, but that's a lot of the reason why I started looking at mobile distributions, such as Ubuntu Touch or Mobian or anything like that, or even the mobile version of Arch ARM, right? Mm-hmm. It's because some of the Android space got kind of stale to me, and I dare say I got bored.
Well, yeah, what was it? XDA Developers was the place that you went to?
It was the place.
Yeah, the place back in the day, and you could find any kind of tool, kind of help you can over there. And now, the last time I visited that site, which was just a couple of years ago, I was like, hey, I want to play with phones again. And it was like way different. Everything's like way, way different over there.
Now I'd argue, like, if you've heard of anything like Windows Central or Android Central, it's just another company like that now, really. I mean, yeah, the forums still exist. I have an account over there, but it's like I honestly only check it maybe once every couple months. Because all the real development stuff's happening over on Telegram, if you're not aware.
No, yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, and you run a Telegram out there, right?
I do. I run a Telegram group for the OnePlus Nord N200 5G. Mm-hmm. It's ironically, like I told you yesterday, Alex, it's the exact same phone as the Oppo A53 5G, but you cannot cross flash them. It's funny how that happens.
Yeah, it's weird. Must be they must have went and did a Windows thing where they married their hardware.
It's basically done that way because of it's limitations by the manufacturer, right? Like they don't want you doing that. And you there, Alex?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I saw you cut off. I was like, okay.
No, I'm listening to you.
Yo, I'm sorry. Am I rambling on too much?
No, actually, you're spitting knowledge, which needs to be done.
Okay, cool. I'll keep on going. My thing is, I love Android for what it is, but I'm definitely in the Linux game now. And I'm definitely moving more towards some mobile distributions and trying to get those as stable as I can for myself.
So my question is, because I'm very interested in this, because Linux for phones, PinePhone 64 has really done it's really weird because you've got compositors that are making leaps and bounds with Wayland. You've got the phone operating systems that are starting to make leaps and bounds all at the same time, right? And then you've got hopefully soon the audio servers making growth by leaps and bounds all at the same time. So, I mean, you got a lot going on in 2024, I think, that's going to happen in Linux. And this is a very viable part of Linux with phones. What do you think the projected growth is going to be for this?
I'm going to give it over a next couple of year basis. I think what's going to end up happening is we're going to see a lot more of 2-in-1s.
Steve's in the chat.
So,
Zero Linux is in the chat. What's up,
oh,
brother? I
hey,
know
man.
that he was at a party and has been partying, so I don't know the state of condition that he's in. But either way, he could actually type on the keyboard.
Hey, glad to have you here, Steve.
Yeah.
So happy to have you here. You're asking where Jesse is. He's just doing his live stuff today. No worries.
Yeah, living life.
Um,
So I mean, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but so you think it's going to have solid growth, or you think it's going to be more of the same?
I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a growth in a different market than phones necessarily. I think it's going to become more like tablets and 2-in-1s. You're going to see a lot more of those with Linux and on them because those are basically designed in a very similar way.
Yeah, well,
how
yeah,
a phone is.
Yeah.
So imagine being able to carry around essentially your tablet, which has SIM capability, and it can be your computer. I know that'd be pretty cool. Or I could almost see foldables possibly having builds at some point.
Wow, that's interesting enough because I mean, you when you talk about a phone, you're right. It's kind of like a little mini computer in your hand, which is more of the platform of a tablet. So and I do know that there are some. Like I know that you can on a is it not the Kindle, but what's the Amazon the
Fire HD?
Yeah, the Fire HD. Yeah, on the Fire HD, I know that you can actually download Linux for it. I think you can download Ubuntu on there, Arch Linux on there, and you can actually run instances of Linux on it already.
Yeah, here's the thing. I mean, at the end of the day, if you can get the firmware or the binaries for it, you can run Linux on almost anything. You just have to be able to get that bootloader unlocked at the end of the day.
Well, yeah, but I mean, there's on the Fire, you actually download an app, and it's actually like a container of Linux. You don't have to unlock anything.
Oh, is it?
I can't remember the name of the app.
Is it called Andronix?
Yes.
Yeah. I've used that before, and what it does is it basically virtualizes it. Is what it does.
Yeah, it does. It's like a VM.
Essentially a VM.
Yeah,
basically.
It's like VM. It's definitely like a VM on Linux, man, and it works great. It works solidly. You know what I'm saying? I was actually able to use it. I was like, holy crap! I could use it more functionally than I did to freaking Android.
Right, exactly. It's hilarious. Nate made a good point here. He said on his Samsung Tabs S7Fe, he could message, take calls, go into Samsung Dex, which is full screen mode for like a computer type experience, and have a full desktop, right? Here's the thing. I think Linux is actually going to end up going in that direction for tablets and stuff, right? Or even phones, because imagine you just walking around with your Linux phone. You just hook it up to your monitor, TV, whatever, grab a keyboard. You have the exact same experience. I know they've been trying to do that with what phones have there been. There's the Vala phone, the Librem 5 in the past, which was kind of a flop, but oh well.
Yeah, I was saying the Librem 5 flopped hard.
Yeah, I know they tried to do that with the Pine phone to some extent, but my issue is the hardware is not powerful enough yet.
On the Pine phone, well, that's really funny. If you could get Linux to work on a regular, like like a mainstream phone, like Samsung, whatchamacallit, OnePlus, those guys, anything like that, Google Pixel, whatever. If you can get the Linux to work on there, dude, it would be so much better because that is really great hardware. Whereas the PinePhone 64, in order to keep it more cost efficient, they're actually like putting in some middle of the road hardware. Yeah, and so they're sacrificing on that, I think.
And they have to some extent, right?
I mean,
if I remember,
if I'm not correct, I didn't mean to cut you off, but there's two. You can buy one PinePhone 64 that's like the middle of the road, and then an upgraded version that has a little bit better hardware on it.
You can buy the PinePhone 2 gig, PinePhone 3 gig, and then the PinePhone Pro. I have the PinePhone 3 gig, and it is okay for what it is. I think what's going to eventually have to happen for it to grow is we have three major phone chip manufacturers, right? You have Qualcomm with Snapdragon, you have MediaTek with their Helio and other chips, then you have actually one based out of China called Unisoc, which does a lot of the other devices that don't have a MediaTek or a Qualcomm chip. I think they're going to have to team up with at least a couple of those chip manufacturers, get the hardware binaries and get that supported. Because at that moment is when you're going to have amazing performance. It's when 100% the hardware that's holding it back for the phones.
Right. Literally, I'm nowhere near as in depth as you are on that kind of stuff, but the reality of it is to me, I could see that already. If they can get that in line, dude, I think you're gonna see like Linux phones go like crazy, because from what I understand right now, they're pretty solid to use for making phone calls and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
You know, you can do your phone calls and stuff like that. Yeah, for a phone, for the basic phone functions, they're pretty solid. It's all the added, like the data stuff, the data management, and all that kind of stuff that's a little different for them, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just the extra features, what you want to see type of stuff, right? Not that it has to be there to make it a phone. My big excitement is, right, we've only been, 3 or 4 years now having real Linux phone contenders that are decent.
Yeah.
So
That's what I'm saying. It hasn't been very long.
Look how fast. Yeah, how fast.
That's why I compared it. That's why I compared it to like the window, the compositors, and then also what's going to start happening with the audio servers. You know, being, I mean, you're going to see a lot of growth here. I think those are the three things that we're going to see. I mean, I'm not trying to project 2024 because I hate to do that, because you know it tends to be a curse. But I could certainly see where those are going to be three things that are going to be very much so growing a lot and being talked about a lot in the Linux space when it comes for the year 2024.
Yeah, exactly.
And I didn't even, you know, and to be honest with you, I didn't even think about the tablet aspect until you mentioned that, because you're not lying one bit, because you can use pretty much, it's the same hardware.
Yeah,
the tablet only actually probably better than like the phones.
Well, yeah, you know, a bigger screen.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, it's better hardware than the phone. So you'd be better off turning a tablet into a Pine phone. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And you know, some people already kind of do that to some extent. What they'll do is they'll grab, like you were saying, a Kindle Fire, and they'll turn it into like a little, what are they called? Heater or whatever thing, and show it on the wall. Like they'll hang it up.
Oh,
thermostat. Yeah, like they'll turn it into a thermostat. They do that with Linux.
Yeah,
that's how they do it.
I would say most of the built-in modems and architecture of the chips are all proprietary.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if he's talking about on phones or if he's talking about on maybe tablets.
He's talking on phones. That is the reason why I correct people when they say Android is Linux, because Android is not Linux.
No, it isn't.
And the Android kernel is not the Linux kernel. It is based on the Linux kernel.
It's based on the Linux kernel. It's modified heavily.
Yeah, it's because of the proprietary portions, right? Because just from the background and the Android kernel stuff we've had to mess with, if you look at it, they obfuscate it to a crazy amount so that you don't understand what's really going on. And what you have to do is you have to go in and find the name to things, figuring out what phones have this, and then if you want to, let's say, port a newer version of Android over to an older one, you have to go find another phone with that same hardware
to do it,
and then rip it out of that, because you don't know what it's actually like you have a general idea of what it's doing, but you don't know 100%.
Right.
Because there's only so much.
I do remember that from the early days of you know, patching ROMs and doing that kind of stuff back in those days.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, it was very, you would literally, it was kind of, it reminded me of the olden days of Linux, where you literally went shopping for the hardware that you needed in order to put on what you wanted to. You know what I mean? You almost had to find the right phone to be able to put whatever ROM it was that you wanted on there.
Yeah. These days, if anybody's wanting to go into that area, I would say definitely Fairphone's a good option. That's the Swedish Linux is saying right here.
Yeah, I was just going to say Swedish Linux, drop that in. Like he was in your mind, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. He and I were thinking the same thing. Either go a Fairphone, you could go with like a Pixel. Don't go with the 8, probably go with the 7 is probably a better choice for you in the end.
Well, yeah, like somebody was saying last night, I can't remember. The software is already more fine-tuned for that, whereas the 8, you're going to have the growth, you know, the struggling growth. So
Because if you go with a little bit older devices, they've had way more time to work on it, is what it ends up being.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyhow, that I guess concludes the podcast for today, guys. That was a kind of a fun one. We went through kind of quick, but we're both pressed for time. It's getting late, it's New Year's Eve. People got a party that they got to go to that they won't tell me the nature of the party. Because he says that I might not like him too much. No, I'm just kidding. He didn't say that.
Yeah. I did say that, and it's probably true. So,
but
let's not.
Either way, guys, just once again, man, Happy New Year's to you all. Thanks. Oh, we just got a super chat from Steve. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You guys keep doing what you guys do. Keep on Linux and stay safe, stay blessed, and we'll see you in the very next one.